Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Planning Board meeting of July 11th, 2023. Vice Chair Crowe is out tonight, so I'll be chairing, and I want to recognize that we have a quorum. So, Director, what would you like to start with first? All the public hearings will begin 7:15 or after.
Thank you, Member McCamey, and Acting Chair this evening. If we may, we have Dennis Duggan here from Archbishop Williams for his approval not required plan, which I have prepared a report in your packet. The materials were circulated last week. This is an approval not required subdivision plan for 80 Independence Avenue and 85 Washington Street. What Archbishop Williams is looking to do is to well, that's not really what you're here for tonight, sir. What they're looking to do is to swap some land. So the St. Coletta's, which is at 85 Washington Street, is going to give about 2,300 square feet to Archbishop Williams, and Archbishop Williams is going to give them about 932 square feet. Basically two triangles on the Washington side of the property, noting that the Archie's piece has quite a bit of access and frontage along the Independence Avenue side. The swapping of these parcels will affect the frontage, but these parcels, as noted in the report, have well over, one has over about 1,200 feet of frontage, and the other one has over 300 feet of frontage after the swapping of those parcels. Planning staff is recommending endorsement.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant like to make some remarks?
That would be appropriate. Thank you for allowing...
Please speak into the microphone. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight, and thank you for considering this application. This is a plan proposed between two longstanding and very friendly and good neighbors to each other, and essentially we are in need of adding a modular classroom building to our property, and this land swap allows us to place it in the most advantageous position, and including avoiding an underground gas pipe, which would have to be removed if we were going to build it under the current property line. It also allows our neighbor, the Cardinal Cushing Centers, to gain needed parking spaces. This is along a shared property line, which is not really buildable for any other reason, and all parties are in favor of it. And when the deed, this was at the suggestion of Cardinal Cushing that we did this, because although everybody was approved, they thought that the actual conveyance of a deed process would take longer, and there is a time element here for us to begin the siting of our modular classroom building. So it was at their suggestion that we go through this process.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any comments from the public? Okay, then we'll hear from the Planning Board. Member Kent, do you have any questions?
No questions, sir.
Okay. Member Grove? All right.
Am I
Member
live? No.
Huh?
No.
Okay, thank you. Member Conley?
No, thank you.
Okay. I don't have any questions either. Seems pretty straightforward to me. Do we need a recommendation and a vote?
This evening, if the board is looking to move forward on this application, you can either move the staff recommendation, which is to endorse the plan, or you can make a motion to endorse the plan as submitted.
Okay. Do we have a motion from the board?
Plan, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Motion from Member Grove. Is there a second?
Second?
Second from Member Conley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Okay.
I'll call you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Which one?
Could we, if I may, act through the acting chair, could we take up the as-built approval for 1618 Pearl Street?
Sure.
If I may, to the board. The applicant's requested the planning board grant as-built approval. The applicant originally made this request back in November of 2022. Staff at the time felt that there were further improvements to be made to the property as part of their renovation project. The applicant committed to seal cracking and seal coating the parking lot at the McDonald's on Pearl Street to ensure an aesthetically pleasing site within South Braintree Square. In doing so in November, the planning board voted to release all surety held in relation to this project. Given that the property owner did make that commitment, staff has been by the site several times. It looks great. They've done everything that we asked. The pavement markings, the seal coating, and the seal cracking are in great shape. That being said, staff is recommending that the planning board grant as-built approval with the following conditions to remain as survived. Those conditions are Condition 1, Condition 5, Condition 7, Condition 13, and Condition 23.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the audience? Any comments? Okay. Member Kent, any questions?
No questions.
Okay. Member Grove?
No, Mr. Chair.
Member Conley?
No, thank you.
Okay. I don't have any. Would we like to entertain a motion for as-built approval, please, with the surviving conditions as Assistant Director Murphy mentioned?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Second, motion by Member Kent, seconded by Member Grove. All in favor? Aye. Oppose? All right, thank you.
If I may, through the acting chair, moving right along here, we have a request for waiver of special, a request for a waiver from a special permit pursuant to 135-608 floodplain. If I can draw your attention to your packet, the letter dated June 13th. Kelly Phelan, our conservation agent, and myself met with this resident. His property is in close proximity to the wetland buffer and also in the 100-year floodplain. He has gone to the Conservation Commission for both the proximity to the wetland area and also the floodplain, and he's seeking a waiver. The only thing that will be actually in the actual floodplain is a few sauna tubes. I believe it was, a couple sauna tubes that come to about 12 cubic feet of volume. So as we have in the past for these really small projects that really do not impact the floodplain and there isn't grading activity and whatnot, just to work with these homeowners, we've asked the planning board to waive the special permit requirements given the impact is minuscule, and it has been reviewed by the Conservation Commission, and they issued an order of conditions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Director. Are the applicants here? Do they want to make any comments?
I don't know. Are you BFA? No.
Okay. Any other comments from the public? Okay. Member Kent, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Thank you. Member Grove?
Yes, sir. What is the voting requirement on this?
To waive it?
Yeah?
4.
Or? That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member Grove. Member Conley?
No, thank you.
Okay. I don't really have any questions. This is just a small
It's literally
areas.
the supports will be.
Sonotubes, yeah.
Exactly, in the floodplain elevation. Yep.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Okay, well, if there's no other comments, do we have a motion for the request of waiver of special permit?
So moved.
Okay, motion made by Member Kent. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Member Conley. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, thank you. That means it passes. Right? Okay.
Yeah, I was just writing my notes down. Okay, before we have a few more minutes before we get into our public hearings. As noted on the agenda, we have the board member term limits. I have provided the memorandum prepared by our council, which was dated today. There's a couple paragraphs, but the important part, as she notes, at the end of the memo, most importantly, in the interim, the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court has held that holdover appointments have valid authority. Therefore, any and all holdover members on any of the town boards or committees, including the planning board, have valid legal authority to act on the matters before them. So I think was the main crux of what has been voiced by some of the members, or the member, and that has been addressed. I know we've talked about it, but there it is in writing from our solicitor.
Okay, thank you.
And then we can do the master plan updates, because we still have a few more minutes. Mr. Chairman, the next meeting is going... It's in the packet. Master plan updates. So next week, July 20th, which is a Thursday, we will be holding a meeting here in the auditorium with the master plan steering committee, and we've invited the council and also the planning board. What we're going to be doing is reviewing in detail the shortlisted strategies, and the strategies are what the town is going to do over the next decade to create the vision that the town has set out for themselves. So I hope people are available to make it. If you can't make it and you'd like to send some comments in, please feel free to do so. We can share those with the committee. And all of the shortlisted strategies are right available with a quick link from the master plan website. And that's also here for reference if you don't already have that bookmarked on your computer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. We still have 2 minutes before 7:15, so if you could just, we'll have a slight intermission. Yes, Member Conley.
For staff, have there been any developments in appointing new members to the board? No. No. Is there any timeline for when that may be expected, or?
I don't have that timeline.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And they're all set. Here we go.
Okay, it's now 7:15. We're going to continue with our public hearings. Assistant Director Murphy, what should we start with here? Do we start with the new public hearing?
Yes, please.
Okay. You want to read the introduction?
I am pulling that up right now.
Thank you.
Awesome. Notice is given by the Planning Board under the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, Sections 9 and 11, and the Braintree Zoning Bylaw, Chapter 135, Articles 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 12, and 14, that a public hearing will be conducted on Tuesday, July 11th, 2023, at 7:15 p.m. in Braintree Town Hall. The Planning Board will consider a site plan review application filed by Chief James O'Brien, Town of Braintree Fire Department. The applicant's project involves the demolition of a portion of the existing fire station and to construct a 1,370 square foot two-story addition. The project also involves improvements to the site's landscaping, lighting, utilities, stormwater management system, parking, and ADA accessibility. The property is located at 911 Union Place, is zoned open space conservancy, and is shown on the Braintree Assessor's Map 1005 as plots 29 and 7A with a land area of 37,064 square feet.
Thank you. Should we have the applicant make some comments? Okay. Please identify yourself, sir.
Good evening. My name is Nathan Ketchel. I am the civil engineer, or one of the civil engineers on the project. I also have with me Fire Chief James O'Brien, project manager Stephen Kirby, architect Ellen Light, and landscape architect Amy Foster. I guess I'll go right into what's going on here. As Connor had indicated, this is the renovation and addition to the Braintree Fire Headquarters project. It is located on the corner of Union Place and Foster, Tenney Road. Right now it is developed as the town's fire station, with the building on the northern portion of the lot, parking down to the south on the main parcel, and then also the commonly owned lot. What is being proposed is the existing bituminous on the site be removed, a portion of the existing building, which is a single-story garage space, be demolished, and a new two-story addition be built with facilities for the fire department. This is a schematic of the revisions. So starting with I'm going to try to go that way with it. More or less, we are keeping the same shape of the building as it is right now. The addition is slightly smaller, I believe, by approximately 95 square feet than what is there right now. We are creating, right now there is all bituminous up in this space. We're creating some green space. Up at the northeast corner, installing a dedicated accessible parking space with an accessible walkway and ramp into the building, with a new main entrance stairway and the ramp. New bituminous along the eastern edge. Right now it's all bituminous along the frontage on Tenney. So we're going to create a landscaped island to break that up so that there's more or less two entrances into the site. Right now, there are parking spaces that come right up to the property line and maybe even over the line into the right-of-way. We're going to be eliminating those so that people aren't directly backing onto Tenney Road. We are going to be reducing the number of parking spaces from, I believe it's 32 right now, and we're going to be going down to 25, but that's a number that is acceptable to the department for their uses. It equates to approximately one parking space per 440 square feet of inhabitable space within the building. And that takes out, this portion of the building right here is 3 parking stalls or garage bays. This portion of the building is where the apparatus are stored, so those were backed out of the number to come up with the 440 gross square feet per parking space that can be provided. We are not touching this wooded area at the southwest corner of the site, but otherwise, with the exception of the apron right now due to ongoing operations of the fire department during construction, everything else will get new bituminous throughout. With the renovated and added to building, there will be all new utilities that go in, which will include a new pad-mounted transformer for electrical service. That will include running new three-phase wires overhead down Tenney Road and then going underground to a new pad-mounted transformer, which then from there it goes back into the addition where the new electrical room is. There will be new communication services that also go into the building. We're going to be adding a grease interceptor for the commercial kitchen in the facility so that we can remove fog from the sanitary waste that will be discharged from the building. New oil water separator for the floor drains within the apparatus bay area, as well as the garage that's to the south down here. And then stormwater. Right now, everything that is on that site basically discharges to grade and sheet flows either to Union Place or to Tenney Road. Where we can, we are going to be putting in new deep sump catch basins with hydrodynamic water quality structures, which help reduce the amount of total suspended solids in the stormwater. Due to the site soil conditions, the site is not conducive to infiltration. It's a dense till material, which, if you've encountered that, it can be like concrete. So what we are going to do for nitrogen and phosphorus removal is provide a sand filter underneath the stormwater chambers prior to discharging into the municipal drainage system. With the building as well, there will be a new emergency generator which is sized to fully protect the building or operate the building during a power outage. It will be natural gas fed. New fire service in the building. Currently there is no fire protection system in the building. That will change under the renovations to provide a fully sprinkled building. There are some downspouts on the site that currently discharge to grade, and they will need to continue due to their locations and available connection points. But overall, the drainage analysis, which was submitted and will be submitted to the DPW as well, shows that overall the peak flow is reduced from the existing condition. Grading is relatively minimal. More or less, we're putting a new parking lot or resurfacing the parking lot while also retrofitting the site to have a compliant stormwater system. So grading is limited to what needs to be done. It's more or less already graded the way that it needs to be, with differences being getting stormwater to the points where it needs to, as well as dealing with providing the accessible pathway from the parking spaces into the building, and then also with the addition itself. I can try to speak to the site lighting plan if I can get to it. Let's see. Lighting on the site will be minimal. The main focus is going to be lighting up the Union Place side of the building, as well as any emergency egress doorways, with the main egress door being on the far side of this, as well as one that's on the back side of the building. I understand that this was discussed at length last night with the Historical Commission. And then, I don't know if you want to speak to the landscape.
Hi everyone, I'm Amy Foster. I'll just speak very briefly because the landscape planting scheme is fairly straightforward. We have some trees in the parking island to kind of provide that streetscape atmosphere and some screening and shade. That will be a fairly columnar canopy red maple tree, and below that will be lawn for ease of maintenance and ease of visibility coming in and out of those. And around the front building, we have a pretty diverse mix of perennials and shrubs that will kind of just soften those hardscape additions, soften the edges of the building, and then provide some cheerful perennial blooms in the summer. One careful consideration we had was for the site triangle, turning in and out of Tenney. So all of the plant selections within that conservative site triangle will be below, 24 inches in height. And that 24 inches is really just the top of the flower bloom. None of these are super dense evergreens. They will just kind of be a perennial bed within those height constraints. And then some shrubs to kind of, again, just soften that entryway and provide some sense of threshold.
Hello, I'm Ellen White, Project Manager for Context Architecture. I'm going to start with showing the elevations. So on each sheet, you'll see the existing elevation at the top and then the proposed elevation at the bottom. So at the front of the building, one of the big factors that we have is changing the windows. We are going to be, right now, they're 6/6 vinyl.
Ma'am, could you please speak into the microphone?
Oh. Right now, should I start from the beginning? Okay, sorry. The elevations show at the top, you'll see the existing building, and the lower elevation is the proposed. So we basically, with the existing building, we're making sure that it respects the historical tradition that it had. One of the things that we're doing, we're cleaning the brick, we're repointing where we need to, especially on Union Place. And we're changing out the windows, which are right now in an inexpensive vinyl window. We're changing that out with, first of all, a muntin pattern that is historically accurate. So we're going from a 6/6 to a 6/9 at the upper level and a 9/9 at the lower level. We're cleaning up the cast stone, which has shown wear and staining over time. We're lighting the signage, as Nathan had explained. And one of the major things is we're cleaning up the entry, which we're restoring it. The entry would be, I'm not sure how to use the pointer. The entry right here. We're returning the look of that to the historical look by changing back to a pair of doors with side lights, glass side lights, and a glass transom in a muntin pattern that represents the way it was historically. Then we're putting on an addition, as you know, where the old garage was, and that addition will be built in the same vocabulary as the existing building, with the same brick pattern, the same brick color, carrying the same windows. We'll also be replacing the cornice and the trim, which has worn over time, and we'll be replacing that with painted wood trim with the same profile. We'll be similarly replacing the wood cornice with the same profile in a mahogany, painted mahogany that will be durable. We have an add alternate to replace the roof. Right now, the roof is rolled asphaltic product, and we will most likely be changing it out with a product that looks like slate. We're not able to do real slate because of the change in codes, and the weight of the slate would require a lot of engineering that we can't do at this, we won't be doing, but it'll look like slate. So that's, and then a big part of this course of renovations is we're making the building accessible, so we're replacing the metal ramp, which is kind of a temporary looking ramp at the front door. We're replacing that with a concrete ramp with painted metal rails, which you can see to the left of the elevation. Oh, just use that. Okay. This is the Tenney Road elevation. You're looking at the new addition, which is replacing that one-story garage. As I said, it'll be in the same vocabulary as the existing building. And then there's a rear garage that will remain in place, but we'll clean it up. We'll paint the peeling wood. We'll repaint, we'll repoint, we'll clean up the masonry, replace a few windows there. We also have, the addition has a flat roof, and we have a large air handling unit that will be sitting on that roof. Needs to be screened acoustically to make sure that the sound is correct for Tenney Road neighbors. So there'll be a painted metal screen, which you see on you see it in white on this elevation. It'll be painted a color to make it compatible with the roof so that it won't stand out. This is the rear elevation, the south elevation, what you would see if you were in the parking lot. Again, it's really replacing windows, cleaning up the masonry, cleaning up the trim and the cornice and the gutters, and you have the old hose tower there that's remaining in place, and then you can see the two-story addition over to the right. You can see the screening, and you can see the low garage that will remain in place. Lastly, this is the west elevation, the one that would face Washington Street. There's a side door into the app bay from there, and similarly to the rest of the building, it's cleaning up the masonry, replacing the brick, replacing the trim. Just to give you some context, I'm going to go through the floor plans. It's basically a two-story building. It does have a basement area, so this is right now you're looking at the basement. We're not doing very much there. We're relocating the electrical room into the new addition, which was a functional decision that needed to be made. This is the first floor plan. So the lower part of it, you should focus on the right, which is the new work that we're doing. There's a four-bay garage. We'll basically be, cleaning that up and putting in new mechanical, electrical, plumbing as required. We're putting in a new decon area with showers and lockers, which are bringing the decon area up to current standards for a fire station. That's the area where they would come in after a fire, change out their clothes, take a shower, wash their gear. We also have the gear locker room over there, and then you can see the entrance to the building coming in on the left. The lobby will be making that accessible. We'll be putting in a public restroom there and making an accessible pathway through the lobby, which will be secured, and then back to an elevator, which can take people up to the administrative level on the second floor. There's also a small stair that takes you into the addition. On the first level of the addition, most of it is wellness space, and then there are also service spaces within there, the elevator, mechanical room, the electrical room, service spaces that are needed for the building. This is the second floor. What we've done at the second floor is we've basically reconfigured the living areas so that most of the firefighter rooms are now single occupancy. Right now, there are a number of doubles and a quad. The kitchen dining space will stay in the same area, but it will be upgraded to be a commercial kitchen with good storage and the plumbing services that are needed for a commercial kitchen. We'll be adding some more showers for the living spaces, and in order to do what we needed to do to provide enough living spaces for the firefighters, we're taking what is now the administrative area, which you can see in the left in the existing plan, and they're moving over to be the second floor of the new addition. So basically on the northeast corner is where the chief would be, and then you have the additional officers who have their own spaces and accounting there as well. And finally, the attic level, which we're not doing a lot with the attic level, but we are needing to go in there to do some work for the mechanical, some work for insulation, some work for roof repair. We're doing minimal work up in the attic area. And that's the architectural piece. That's about what we have to present, and ready to take questions.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any comments or questions from the public? Sure. Come up, please, to the microphone and identify yourself and your address, please.
Okay, sure. Good evening. I'm Sue Marble Cuthbert. I live at 4 Tenney Road, so right on the corner of Tenney Road and Union Place. It looks beautiful, everything that we're seeing. It sounds wonderful. I did have a question as you were presenting about the sound and the screen piece and what that means. Is that where it's going to be, everyone come to, whatever? Is it like the announcement about, so would you mind explaining that so we understand? Because we would be the neighbors hearing that, whatever that is.
Up on we have located a rooftop unit on top of the building. Because of its size, it needs to be there, but it also makes a certain amount of noise that exceeds the decibel level that is that would meet code. So we've worked with an acoustical engineer, and so we're putting a screen around it so that it stays quiet and doesn't. Yes, it's a large mechanical unit with screening to buffer the sound.
Okay. I'm going to open it up to the board now for questions and comments. Member Kent?
One question on order. As I am a member of the board of the abutter, the Historical Society, I can still vote here, or is that an issue?
If I could ask, the society owns both direct abutters, correct?
The as a French house, which is the butter on the south and west side, I guess. The barn, the Gilbert Bean barn, abuts the parking lot and the open space, but the
Right.
French house abuts the fire station. And the project sounds great, but as an abundance of caution, I just wanted to point out that I'm also a trustee of an abutter.
Exactly. Given that, I would, when in doubt, I would probably recuse myself.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Member Grove?
No, sir.
Okay. Member Conley?
Thank you. I did have a couple of comments and questions. Once I thought the ramp really broke up the volume of the addition nicely. And as far as questions, to continue with the question from the resident, is there any noise reduction considerations that have been included in your plans for the residents that live nearby?
The screening that we have there is an acoustical screen. It's not just a visual screen. Visually, we want it to look acceptable and compatible with the building, but it's an acoustical screen. We've worked with the Centec, with their acoustical engineer, one of their principals, who's measured decibel levels. And so I don't know if you're asking if the sound will be less than what's there now.
No, my question was not so much about the roof unit, but just generally, are there any considerations within your plans to reduce noise to the local neighborhood?
It wasn't something that we looked at for the building. I don't think it would increase the noise because we're not doing anything in the area of Tenney Road that would create any noise other than the screened unit at the top. And we actually also have some mechanical units on the other side of the garage that are tucked in away from Tenney Road. And they will also have acoustical screening. So we're being cognizant of that. So we're not introducing new sound, but most of the noise of the fire station is really on the App Bay side and not on the Tenney Road side.
Thank you.
All set, Member Conley? All set?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't really have any questions. I'm thankful that we're finally fixing this building. I mean, it's been a long time, and it certainly looks good to me. My only question is, has there ever been any drainage work done on this site?
I cannot say for certain if any has been done. However, given that there essentially is no drainage infrastructure on the property, I would have to go with a no.
Okay.
For an answer.
Yeah. So, I mean, the plan looks pretty extensive.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I was just kind of curious.
We're picking up as much of the site drainage that we can, especially given the additional landscape island that's going to be placed between the parking lot and Tenney Road. Otherwise, it's unless we want to completely change the way the site operates, it would be difficult to go beyond that. And then I also did want to, I had forgotten to mention this before, snow storage is something that we're going to be looking further at. Right now, the department operates by clearing snow over towards the memorial bell that they have on the front apron side. And in the back, they push it basically to the back of the parking lot. But we'll put some calculations together for that. And additionally, refuse. Right now, they use roller garbage cans and recycling bins, much like the residential style. And they align them on the back side of the apparatus bay area. And they intend to continue to do that. They have it picked up on Friday when the other residents in the community are getting picked up. So.
Okay. Staff, any more comments?
Staff did review this project. Melissa and I have been working with the project team for several months now, and it's great to see the progress that it's making so far. We did make some minor comments to which Mr. Ketchel did identify during his testimony. We are recommending that this be continued to August with permission of the board to prepare draft findings and conditions ahead of the meeting.
Okay, excellent. So do we have a motion from the board to continue this matter until August 8th, did I see? Okay,
So moved.
okay. Motion by Member Grove, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Member Conley, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we'll see you back in August. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you doing this? Oh. Okay, we have a continued public hearing for new definitions, and I'll turn it over to the director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Acting Chair. As the board is aware, we've talked about this a couple times. We talked about them, and then we had some drafts, and then the board directed me to actually file this amendment with the town council, which I went ahead and did on May 23rd. I've recopied, I wasn't sure if you had it left over from last month, the memo that I prepared on June 11th. And basically, the memo just continues to go over, we already opened the hearing, sorry. The memo continues to go over in a little more detail than we have in the past. The definitions that we're looking to add, and again, that is for the production studio, for the brewery with tap room, the brewery production use, and then also the function and conference facility use. So the report is structured to show the proposed definition. Then I've included an excerpt from the use table highlighting the districts. So the production studio would be allowed by right in highway business and commercial. And then the brewery with tap room would be allowed by right in highway business and commercial, and by a special permit in the general business and the landing. And then the brewery production, which really wouldn't have that kind of tap room element, would be allowed by right in highway business and commercial. And then we have the corresponding parking requirements as well. And then we have the function conference facility, which again, looking at the table, would be by special permit in highway business and also in commercial, with a parking requirement to be set by the board. And we've actually had some recent interest in somebody looking to do a restaurant function facility here in the community. We're going to be meeting with them hopefully next week. So basically, this is just kind of the tightened up version of what we've been talking about. I'd be happy to go into any of the aspects of this in more detail or answer any questions from the board. It doesn't look like we have anybody from the public, but these are definitely some good definitions. These are some relevant definitions, and these are some definitions that will bring things, I think, into a little bit more, I don't want to pick on our brewery, Widowmaker, because they're actually doing very well, but again, they're in a manufacturing category, and yes, they are manufacturing things. They're also doing a lot of other things there. And now these definitions allow for the public element. And also, I think it was actually Member Murakami that had mentioned to me, or maybe Member Kent, about the food provisions. So the definition includes that. Whether it's in-house or mobile, if they're going to have the food in-house, great. If not, we'll look to make sure that there's an area where the truck can park and people can access the food out of drive aisles and parking spaces and things like that. So yeah, available for any questions or clarification, and would love any comments and feedback from the members. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Member Kent, any questions?
I think it's a good idea to do this. I was a little bit concerned that the Sheraton Tower is gone and F1 is gone and Lombardo's will soon be gone. Is that an opportunity or is that a message here? And that's more a business question than it is a planning question. But
Right,
I think that nevertheless, being prepared by doing this is a good idea.
I've always kind of questioned that, Member Kent, like it's just lacking. Like, unless you want to go to some of the clubs and stuff, which a lot of them have very nice function rooms, but if you're looking for something a little bit more elevated or, something, baby shower, or wedding shower, or something like that, I recall the Sheraton Tower being very, very busy when they were in their quote heyday.
Now that I think about it, there's Trillium down the street there in Canton that seems to be backfilling some of this, which...
Maybe.
So I guess it's not a fundamental business change, it's just a good idea to have this in the code.
Anything else?
All set.
Okay. Member Grove, questions?
Yes, Chairman. I have a concern about the planning board setting the parking requirements on the function facilities. That problem is that your standards will change as the board changes. I think you need a starting line, some baseline to start from, because we can always amend it after the fact. We can grant relief on the parking with an application, correct, Ms. Santucci?
What is your question? The planning board can't grant parking relief, no.
Excuse me?
The planning board cannot grant parking relief.
No? Okay.
No, no. And if I can, just
Then
to,
how did we go and grant relief to the South Shore Plaza?
that wasn't relief, that was setting the ratio. The South Shore Plaza did not receive any parking relief. Their ratio was set by the planning board for a regional mall. No, the planning board cannot grant parking
Right,
relief.
but if we have a standard baseline to start with, we can go and change the ratio
No, that's,
if requested, yes.
no, respectfully, if you look in the bylaw and you look at 806, Section A has the requirements, and then B and C say if the use is not listed, then the planning board sets it. If you list it with a requirement and you vary from that, you're going to the zoning board of appeals. And that is specifically called out in the...
There's still a method if somebody gets in trouble. I think we ought to have a standard to work from.
And the reason why, and I had explained this previously, but the reason why I'm suggesting this is functions have become so different. Before it was you'd go to a room, you'd have round tables, 8 to 10 to a table, and that's how you calculated it. Now there's all kinds of outdoor areas at function facilities. There's people that have like cocktail style reception spaces, which you can pack a lot more people in. And I just think that some of these function facilities as well also have restaurants and other types of entertainment associated with them as well. And the reason I left it to be set by the planning board, and again, this is a special permit use, is that we'd be able to see the components of that particular function facility and appropriately set a requirement and put conditions on it as well. So this is actually, it allows the planning board to be involved in figuring out and determining the parking versus we don't meet an arbitrary ratio and we need to go to the zoning board of appeals to get a variance. So that's really kind of the explanation behind it.
Says I still think you're setting a variable guideline by not setting.
And it should be variable because these facilities could be very different. And that's why I put it this way.
But the variability can also be with the membership of the board.
That's on every board in every town and the whole state. There is no board that has been the same for, decades.
Then why not give them some guidelines to work off of?
Because parking requirements aren't guidelines, they're requirements. There's a difference. There's a difference between that. And this, we would be looking at peak periods. How many people can you fit in this room? If you flipped it to a cocktail, how many people can you fit? I think we've all looked at different function facilities and it'll say seated for 80 people, cocktail style 120. So we need to understand how these places are actually going to function and what they're going to be offering to potential patrons so that we can make sure. Some of these places have multiple functions at the same time. So we would also want to be able to take a look at that as well. Indoor areas, outdoor areas. I want just the ballroom. I want just the roof deck. So we would be able to look at that as a whole.
then why not base your parking requirement on the number of attendants that can be at a hall or a function?
Because of what I just said. The ballroom with round tables holds 100 people. If they wanted to flip it to something else, it would hold more. So I think that's something that we really need to look at on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
But questions, the same room could be set up one day under one, there's a ball with round tables, the next day without the round tables, so you default to the number of spaces
It
that
could
would
also be
accommodate the most
split.
people?
Well, it could also be split. For example, you could also have a situation where, for example, I'll use my own wedding, we got the whole entire place because we didn't want other functions there. So in that particular case, we were on the lesser side of the numbers versus if somebody took an outdoor area and it's just so variable. I don't know, I've been to a million functions and weddings and now it's just like everything, so it's just very different and the experience is in the setting is very different. I just want to be able to, the reason for doing this is so that those places that have the potential to have more bodies will in fact, we can address that in a ratio. And for an example, let's say if somebody's parking, if we got into discussions and the parking wasn't that abundant at a particular place, we might put a condition in something that says you can't have, the cocktail style functions because that would draw in more people. So just the ability to really look at what's being proposed in a special permit context and set a parking ratio.
Okay. Member Conley?
Parking is generally tied to square footage. Is it ever tied to occupancy?
We don't have... Restaurants? Restaurants goes by seats.
Okay.
No, it's usually by square footage. It's usually by square footage. Trying to think. We used to have some older ones that were, actually the school ratio might be per teacher or something like that.
Okay.
We used to have some really weird ones that respectfully by employee, where you change the number of employees, all of a sudden you don't meet your parking requirement. That gets a little bit variable.
Okay. And then I had a question about the brewery with tap room and the mobile service. Would it be within the individual hearing that you'd set the requirements in terms of like safety related to and designating a spot for like a food truck and then making sure that area was safe?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's similar to like a loading area. We would look to make sure that it was dimensioned appropriately and there was room for people to kind of line up and get the food.
And then in the newer world of food trucks, is there generally like safety precautions that are taken in that area to separate the vehicles that are likely in the parking lot from the patrons?
In the areas that I've gone to where they have like food courts, they're typically the parking is, not food courts, food trucks. It's typically separated.
Okay.
Yeah. But we would also want to make sure that it's not displacing like patron parking as well.
And then just a comment, I appreciate the updates. I think they're very timely and helpful to people looking to develop
Yeah.
new business.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So in terms of brewery production, we have Widowmaker right now. Back in the day, there was that brewery over by the plaza. I can't.
Well, if I may, Mr.
Yep.
Chairman, they would be under the brewery with tap room.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. So,
The only thing, I know, Connor and I were going back and forth, I'm trying to think what's just straight, well, it's not in Mass, but I don't know if anyone knows the Fabrizi limoncello, and they have some really nice beverages in the cans. My friend happens to be the the owner of that company. Like, you go in there and there's no tastings, it's just straight production, bottling, packaging, shipping, loading, like a lot more, just less interactive, I would say, with consumers.
Okay. So brewery with tap room then, sort of tagging on to what Member Kent was talking. You know, what happens if all of a sudden we have 5 of them or 7 of them? Braintree becomes a place to have it. Do we care about that? Are we okay? I mean, there's no limit per se. I'm just.
Yeah, no, there's no, I mean, how long? Widowmaker's been here for a while, and that's really the only.
Well, we permitted them.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
5 years, I would say.
5 years?
5 years,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then there was another one there at the plaza.
The
which
Brew
went out.
Moon, yeah, that was
yeah.
probably more of a rest, I don't know. I feel like they were more of a
Well, I
restaurant.
mean, they had production there as well, you know.
Yeah. And then we did have an inquiry maybe a year or two ago from some individuals that were interested, that wanted to go, do like a more low-key thing into the square. But again, it was the light manufacturing didn't jive with it. There was just really unfortunately, there was no path for them. So now this creates something for somebody that wants to do something a little more, you know, I would forecast to see these things getting more and more niche and specialty, and, you know, creating different types of beverages, and people wanting to do things maybe a little smaller and not necessarily upscale, but very crafty, I guess I would say.
Yeah. So.
You know, there are some like Trillium, I mean, they're just crushing it there. But then, for example, there's one in Hudson called Medusa, and it's like a couple storefronts. I was showing Connor that one. And they produce it there, and then they got tables, and, you know, you get food, pizzas, and, you know, pub food and things like that.
Yeah. So with the brewery with tap room, would that also be constrained by the fact, can they or can they not get a liquor license?
Well, these facilities, and Connor, jump in if I don't know what I'm talking about, they operate under a different license.
It's more of like more of an agricultural license rather than a full-on.
Agricultural?
Yeah, because it's more of a craft than it is, you know, I have 18 bottles behind my bar and I can make 1,000 different drinks. This is more specific. There's, you know, they're not sitting behind the bar combining different beers and giving you something. We have this beer, we've produced it on site, it's been held for however many days, and more of that craft category rather than the ultimate bar experience that I'm sure you'll see elsewhere throughout town.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Are we supposed to take a vote on this?
Yes.
I'd like you to.
Please.
I'd like to keep it moving and get it to the council. We were delayed last month. So I'd like to keep this moving. We just have the agenda next month is bountiful.
Got it. Okay. All right. So do we have a motion from the board on the proposed zoning bylaw text amendments? Motion made by Member Conley. Is there a second?
Was that for a favorable recommendation? Thank you.
Favorable. Okay.
I'll second.
Second by Member Kent. All those in favor? Aye. Oppose?
No.
All set.
3-1.
Yep.
Okay.
We just need 3 for a recommendation.
Right. Recommendation. Okay.
Thank you. I think it's exciting. You know, kind of, and the fact that we already had somebody inquire, I think that, you know, these are things that will add to not only the community, but like choices for residents and for people to, you know, access different things in the community.
Okay. Is there anything else, Director, you want to? Okay.
No, sir.
Do we
Mr.
have a motion
Chairman?
to adjourn? Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to have the planning director ask the town solicitor, get from the town solicitor the case law that Mass General Law she was referring to in a memo. My only issue with this is that her response is rather vague, and we've had numerous history with town council. When they get vague, we get into problems. I'd just like to know what the case law was.
Understood. Yeah, we'll just ask for that to be provided.
Okay. Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, hearing any other business, hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Member Grove, and a second?
A second?
Second by Member Kent, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.